Today, once more, they will replenish themselves, cheat death again, through the power of their source.
Matt Stone, 180degreehealth.com.
Hey, this is Matt Stone of 180 Degree Health, and wanted to talk to you guys today a little bit about what I've been talking to people about on the blog, and that is how much water should you drink. Now, this sounds really basic and really simple. You wouldn't believe what I encounter in terms of the damage that people do by drinking too much water. So we have this simple prescription that we hear from pretty much everybody. I mean, we hear this sort of drink 8-ounce glasses of water a day, drink half your body weight in fluid ounces every day. And we hear this kind of general idea that if you don't get a certain amount of water that's really unhealthy, it's going to cause you some problems. But when you really think about where this comes from and you take a look at where it comes from, that half your body weight in fluid ounces, or the 8-ounce glasses of water a day, that really comes from studies of the total quantity of water that your body requires. So we're not talking about actual glasses of water you need to be drinking, and we're not talking about how many bottles of Aquafina or Fiji water that you need to be drinking, whatever. We're looking at total fluid quantity. And we get tons of fluid in our food. You know, if you look at meat is well over 50% water. Most of your fruits and vegetables are 60, 70, 80, sometimes even more percent water. You get water in all your foods, and you get water in all your other drinks too. Milk, juice. I mean, how much water does a baby need to be drinking per day? Well, you get plenty of water in milk as a baby. You don't really need to take in any excess water. And actually, now that we bring up babies, let's talk a little bit about what happens when you give an infant too much water. Now, I bring up the example of the infant because we know of studies with infants. If you give them bottled water, you give them too much water to drink, what happens? Well, they actually can have seizures. They can have problems like that, and it stems from having what's called hyponatremia, or having too few levels of your electrolytes. Specifically, sodium would be the one to focus on, but electrolytes is it's a broader term that can basically encompass other minerals such as potassium and magnesium and things like that as well. But basically, you're looking at having all that stuff diluted out of the cell, and that's what happens when things go south. And you enter into all the symptomology that you see with water intoxication. Water intoxication is an actual real thing. If you drink too much water, it can be deadly. And what happens is the cells take in too much fluid. It dilutes all the glucose and the electrolytes in your cells, and you just have this basically weak solution in your cells and also in your blood. And then you start to have the cells start to expand. So in the brain, one of the first signs and symptoms is headache, but this can also cause blurred vision. It can cause migraines. It can cause seizures. It can cause dizziness. So a lot of people certain points of the day are experiencing these kind of symptoms. You also have all kinds of mood changes, changes in energy levels. So you will notice if you look actually at the clarity of your urine and the concentration of your urine, it parallels very closely the concentration of cells. So if you have very clear urine, then your energy in your cells and your electrolyte concentrations in your cells are usually very low to go along with that. This, for obvious reasons, should be bad. It should make perfect sense why people feel icy cold hands and feet when their urine is very clear, why they sometimes have this dizziness, blurred vision, migraine, seizures, all the kinds of things, headaches that we talked about. You certainly don't want to become dehydrated. There is a zone that is perfection, and you don't want to be too high or too low than that zone. You don't want to have really dark colored urine. You don't want to have super clear urine. You want to be somewhere in between. So I don't want to dwell on this for hours and hours and talk about all the different things. The message I'm trying to convey to you is actually really simple. If your urine is clear, you're probably taking in too many fluids. Now, it's confusing because one of the symptoms that you encounter is actually dry mouth. It gets really, really parched. And that's when it becomes dangerous because you start sipping and sipping and sipping and sipping. If you're one of those type of people that sip stuff all day long, whether it be tea, whether it be coffee, and those are particularly dangerous because you're not drinking for thirst per se, you're drinking to get the stimulants. Or if you're cold all the time, which is very common if you have very clear urine, you're actually taking that stuff in to warm you up. But in actuality, an hour later, it cools you down and you drink more, and it's this self-perpetuating cycle that's not something you want to enter into. But be very cautious and very wary about that. Drinking too many fluids is extremely harmful. It's really hard on your kidneys, but metabolically speaking, it's a nightmare, because every time the energy levels are too low in your cells, your adrenal glands are going haywire trying to get those levels back up again. And that's when you experience a lot of those negative adrenal related symptoms that people call hypoglycemia. Often you'll see a much closer connection to the clarity of your urine and then you actually see if you were to get a blood glucose meter. So what we've been dubbing as hypoglycemia for a lot of people is actually what appears to be more of a hyponatremia, in conjunction along with all the symptoms of having your adrenal glands go crazy, such as putting you into a more agitated, aggressive type of state, or feeling more anxiety and the typical feelings that you get when your adrenal glands are working overtime. So anyway, be careful about drinking too much water. This water propaganda out there is just madness. And water is great. There's nothing wrong with it. You should drink it when you're thirsty and all that stuff. That's fine. But be careful about consuming too much. And if you're in a weakened metabolic condition, you have to be even more careful about it, because even the smallest amount of water will make you crash out and start urinating clear. So keep some nice color in your urine. The best time to be drinking more fluids is when you're warm and you haven't peed in a while and your urine is actually a little bit darker. When you drink in that state, you'll actually absorb that much better. And pay attention to what time of day that you tend to be warmer, particularly in the hands and feet. And your mood is better and your energy levels are better, because that is the time where you can actually absorb these fluids without it crashing you out and just making you pee and pee and pee and pee. And for most people, that's going to be in the second half of the day. The first half of the day is when they tend to get cold. That's not true for everybody, so make that judgment for yourself. But I certainly, if you're freezing cold, you're already peeing clear, do not take any more fluids in. If you do, make sure that they are heavily sweetened, maybe take in something salty with them. And that reminds me of the final tip, which is if you're having these crashes and you're urinating clear all the time, have a salty snack of some kind or something dry. Crackers, chips, pretzels, any of those things. Those might not be optimal foods from a nutritional standpoint, but they trump the importance of taking care of that emergency state, and fixing it trumps any kinds of trivial concerns when it comes to nutrition or fat content or type of fats or any of those kind of the nutritional content. Any of that kind of stuff is minutia compared to the big picture of shutting off that acute stress cascade and getting your body back into more of its normal state. Anyway, that's it for me, Matt Stone, 180 Degree Health. Join me every Wednesday and Saturday for a new video, and I'll catch you later. Bye.
Subscribe to the 180 Degree Health channel now, or you will be abducted by lesbian Nazi hookers from outer space and forced into a weight loss program.
It doesn't matter what you had for lunch, just eat it, eat it, eat it, eat it, eat it. Open up your mouth and feed it.